Bob Hund, Rakaka.se. I'm sitting here with SirScoots. How are you feeling today?
Bittersweet. We got some guys still in the tournament, but a couple guys are out. So when you bring 6 players, they all can't win. So there's always that disappointment tinged with anticipation of the guys that are still in it, hopefully still winning.
People have been saying that this really is the hardest tournament so far. Do you think that your players has performed well according to who the people that are meeting?
Yeah, first I would agree. I think everyone is saying, and we talked about it on Live on 3 last week, I think to date, hardest StarCraft 2 tournament ever. Even when you put it up against the GSL, because it's a different spread of time. You know who you're going to play. You know what maps a little bit. You can prepare differently. This is a weekend blitz with, again, I think we're just missing a couple players. Thorzane's not here, DRG's not here, and Naniwa are not here, but basically everybody else is. Our players, obviously knew going in how hard it would be, the open bracket, even round 1, round 2, no pushovers really, a couple, but so yes, I think they've performed and they lost to really good people for the most part. So that's always the bittersweet side of it is, okay, well, at least you lost to this Code S guy, or you lost to this really good Grandmaster guy. So but again, you don't want them to lose. They don't want to lose, so it's nature of the beast, I guess.
Do you think that is good or bad that there are so many Koreans here? Because personally, I think that when there's only Koreans left, I don't really care that much about the tournament. Do you feel the same, or yeah?
I don't think we can get to the place where we don't want our Korean overlords, as everybody says. I mean, you want the competitions to be the best players of that game, and if they all happen to be Korean, that's the nature of it. Now, on the spectator entertainment side of it, sure, I think having foreigners still in it definitely engages a lot more of the fan base. But I don't think, again, you can deny them entrance and not let them come, so it's just foreigners beating each other. So obviously our goal is to be able to compete with them.
Yesterday, a player named Scarlett did a really big upset. She beat the Muslim. Did you watch some of her games?
I did not, actually, and not against Ben. I did watch a little bit of when she was playing Oz, and yeah, I mean, the girl tore it up, and there's a whole lot of drama, if you will, about her run. Obviously, she's transgender, so you have a lot of people going, well, all right, good run, but not really a girl. All that kind of stuff is happening. Regardless of who she is, that's a great tournament run. And a lot of people are saying, yeah, but a lot of other kind of lesser players had good runs yesterday. But she is unsponsored, no team backing, literally out of the blue. So whether it was a guy or a girl in that position, to have that run, amazing tournament. That's it. I think gender gets thrown away at that point. You look at, I think, the next greatest little story of a really good tournament, and it's Vile Illusion. Another 16-year-old kid, also decimating some really good players. Again, he's got a support system behind him, so it's not quite as maybe as engaging as her story. But yeah, her challenge is going to be to back it up, right? We've seen this before, like Tri-Masters and the Crunchers and other people have had these good tournaments and these good wins, and then they kind of fall away. So that is her challenge, is to come to another tournament and do it again, and then people will truly know she didn't get lucky, she didn't have a couple good games, she is someone to be contended with.
Are you gonna keep a close eye on her from now on?
I mean, we keep a close eye on a lot of people. So we watched her a little bit yesterday, where I think a couple teams have tweeted that they're all over her, and that one tournament does not make a pro player, regardless of who you are, right? So if she stays consistent, I think a lot of teams will keep an eye on her.
Let's talk a little about CSGO, because you're from the CS scene, of course, and Rakaka is also from the CS scene from start off. What do you think of CSGO so far?
I played it a lot. I'm streaming it a lot. I think it still needs a lot of work. I think it's come a long way since the pros played it in New York. Tommy wrote a really negative article, but it was his pro opinion on where the game was and what Valve was or wasn't listening to at the time. And I said on our show last week, I want to see what Tommy thinks now, because they have listened to some to 1.6ers. They've changed some movement recently. They've changed the recoil all last week, and they used to be patching once every Friday, right? And now they're just patching the shit out of it. So. You know, and like Volcano flew to Valve and spent a couple days up there. He's played both games competitively, obviously more 1.6 than Source. So, you know, you hope they're listening, but it's definitely got a long way to go. And again, it can still end up being the most fantastic version of our game ever, but if ESL doesn't pick it up and the tournaments don't pick it up, then it's just going to be a really fun public game, right? So it's got a ways.
Do you think that Valve has started to listen more to the community? Because I know around when Dota 2 came, they went out and they said that they didn't know anything about esports basically, and that is huge to me, because that is Counter-Strike was the biggest esports game probably ever still. Well, not Brood War, but in the Western world at least. How could they be so ignorant?
Yeah, it's like they had this beast. This, you know, they bought Counter-Strike along the way from the two little developer guys, but they left it alone. You know, and they focused on Team Fortress games and Left 4 Dead's, and I guess maybe they got discouraged when they put out Counter-Strike Source, and like it didn't. Maybe they thought it would just be the successor, everyone move over, and now they care, and it never really got picked up as the version of Counter-Strike that we all played. Now, like you said, with Dota 2, I think their eyes are open to this new and bigger engaging world. And they're definitely listening. I mean, some of the latest patches are definitely geared towards movement and recoil and those kind of things for 1.6. The simple fact that they're taking their maps and they're making a competitive version of the map and a casual version, less flying particles, less shit in the way, right? And so they do care. What I'm wondering is, will they care about CSGO like they do in regards to Dota 2 in regards to money? Will they get behind it as a tournament game and like help seed the tournaments, you know, money? Because that will help.
So do you think that maybe there could be the international but for CSGO in the future?
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, that would be a nice, it would make sense. They did it with Dota, you know. As a business, why did they do it with Dota 2? Why did they spend that money, right? For exposure and the press, right? So when they finally release Go, will they do something similar to create that you know, that hubbub about $1 million, oh my, and then get everyone focused on it? I don't know. I hope so. I mean, again, that's the game that got me here, is Counter-Strike. So I want a new version of our game. I really, really do. You know, we kept Jordan on our team, nothing, you know, in hopes that eventually we build another team around him. But again, it's a whole lot of crossed fingers right now for, I think, a lot of Counter-Strike fans.
Have you been talking to any of the old pros in the US scene? Like, do they plan to come back, or they have moved on with their lives?
I really haven't. I mean, a few guys I chat with on a regular basis, you know, and a lot of them are a wait and see, you know. Especially some of the U.S. pros, when you talk about like the frauds and the storms, and like all of them jumped ship to Counter-Strike Source for CGS, right, to make the money, and then they had to jump back. So I think a lot of them are very tentative about, okay, well, let's just really wait and see who embraces this game before I think it's going to save my career again. But I think the bigger issue is even not all of them. Like, the game has to have a huge public presence, or it's not going to matter. If everyone who was really good at 1.6 comes back, it's not enough people anymore, right? You know, when we did our streams, in like 2005 and 2006, when we get 5,000 people watching, we would lose our minds. 5,000 concurrents! Look at this Octashape! Oh my God! And now, like, that, you would be like, oh my God, we're going to lose money. So, like, they all need to come back. Our heroes, we all want to come back, right? But like, the new gamer needs to discover this game and go, wow, this is the Counter-Strike that everyone kept talking about. I want to play it. And then maybe we'll grow a new fan base.
They have been talking. They're gonna release it for Xbox Live, but should the game be played on PC exclusively in tournaments, according to you?
Yes. Yes. Are you trolling me? Yes.
Because like we have seen Halo, and it's the Halo. You can play it on the PC, but it's only on console so far. But if MLG would pick up CS:GO and maybe DreamHack and IM. Yep. Would that secure it for a long time, or do you think that it could be that it's only there for a couple of years, or yeah, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, we definitely would need the big tournament orgs to support it. Simple as that, you know, and that is DreamHack, especially now with all, you know, DreamHack is not just a couple events a year anymore, right? At least not for StarCraft. So if they do that and embrace it as a game title that they do their invites on and all that, and again, Extreme Masters, stateside, we would need ESEA to step it up. We would love IPL or an MLG to jump on it, and because again, like, you can have the greatest game in the world, but if there's no playing field for it, there's nowhere to go compete, no streams to watch it, no money, then you have no pro scene. You just have a really popular public game, you know.
Yeah, so it could become like Quake Live maybe. Like you have almost all the old pros still playing, and it's like really fun to watch for us, the old people. But no one new comes to it. Well, why do you think that EA hasn't like made anything of it?
You know, I don't know, because I mean, you all listen to our show, right? We think like it's one of the purest games of all. You know, and you don't never have to play the game, but watching some duelers go at it, you know, is like poetry in motion at the top level. And I don't get it. I mean, we all thought, okay, they're going to give it away. This is going to be fantastic. A whole new set of people will, and it just didn't. It didn't. And I think part of that's developer fault, but part of it is also just it just didn't. It didn't catch on, and I think part of it was at the bar the other night. We were talking about these old school games, right? Counter-Strike and Quake, and we were talking about Street Fighter and how easy it is to watch. And you know, I was basically like, I think the problem with Quake not having a player base, which equals a fan base, which equals a growing scene, is it's too difficult. Like, you don't get the gratification of easy wins, or like it when you sign up right now, go jump in a server, you're going to get thumped for a while, and especially in duel, right? Because you're trying to figure out how to move, and you know, you got guys that are strafe jumping by you, and you have no idea how to do your timings. It's just a really, really difficult game. And again, you look at a game like StarCraft, and at its highest level, it's an extremely difficult game. But you can start in bronze and play with bronzies and like learn your way. And it's just unfortunate, because I think watching duelers go at it, you know, watching Street Fighters go at it is some of the purest, don't need to play the game sport kind of thing, you know, that we have going for us. And you know, did the developer screw it up a little bit and not care enough, not push it enough? I mean, we see all the new developers, Riot, like Blizzard just announced what they're doing this year, actively supporting everybody else using their title, right? They barely support QuakeCon using the title, right? And so that tells you a lot about what they do and don't care about, right? Which is just incredibly unfortunate, because it's, again, I think it's one of our purest titles.
QuakeCon, they don't care shit about Quake. You know? What the fuck? Yeah. But talking about supporting the game and Blizzard doing it, do you think that Blizzard has started to do this now more because of Riot, maybe?
I was talking to Rob Simpson a little bit about that, and you know, he just kind of smiled. But I think they're doing it for a couple of reasons. They realize that it's actually a smart business thing to do, regardless of who else is doing it. You know, they see the stream numbers, they see how they're already interacting with the people they give licenses to. So why not just bump that up a notch, right? And you have to think, this year there is no BlizzCon. So, you know, I don't know what their marketing budgets are like, but they probably maybe have some money that they're not now spending. And so why not go, you know, why not take the esports money they were going to spend at BlizzCon for those tournaments and just focus it on something more dedicated. And at the same time, nod to all their partners, right? ESL is doing a lot of the qualifiers. I'm sure that their US-based partners will be doing some of them. So I wouldn't say it's, you know, as much as Riot as just them being smart developers and realizing they should support this game even more. They have Heart of the Swarm coming, all those kind of things. So why not continue to grow this as a sport?
Do you think that we will see streams inside of StarCraft 2, like with Heart of the Swarm, or maybe sooner?
You mean like how Riot does it, where if there's a tournament, it's like right there on the homepage? I don't know. I know that Rob and gang are doing more and more advertising for everybody else. You know, like link-wise and news-wise within the client. But will they actually get to the point where, you know, you log into Battle.net and you see an embed of IPL or IEM or DreamHack or MLG? I don't know. Because if they, like, the difference is, like, Riot doesn't so much just license their product out as they literally have a hand in running every single tournament that uses their game, right? So if Blizzard does it for MLG, then they have to do it for their other partners of that level, right? And maybe that's a can of worms they don't want to open. Or maybe they get to a point where if you're at this level of licensing agreement with Blizzard, that's part of what you get, right? Because it only helps the numbers, right? It doesn't hurt anything. But they probably have to play a little bit more political game than Riot does.
If we go and talk a little bit about Dota 2, yeah, you have acquired a team like a while back. How is the team doing right now?
We've dealing with some roster issues right now and kind of figuring out where we want to go with our roster. You know, anyone who's run any sort of organization that has a team game versus individuals, you always have these roster issues. You know, you hope they settle themselves. You hope you find this magic perfect roster that all gets along perfectly. You know, our guys are also spread out over different time zones. That doesn't make it easier. So you know, it's Dota 2 for us is very much a work in progress. It's why we jumped in right at the beginning. We knew that this was going to be a learning process not only for us but for the players, for the organization. So you know, we'll settle our roster issues, and you know, you'll see some releases from us press-wise about what we're going to do. Still very much in flux, but yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. Recently, Playmat got kicked. Like talking about the roster issues. Why did he get kicked?
Not really going to comment on it. Yeah.
If we go back even more, like right after the international, you acquired PyCat's team and you sent them to China to practice. But then we didn't hear very much from them, and then suddenly PyCat was with Loda and playing. What happened there?
Again, don't really want to comment too much on our Dota 2 stuff right now. Okay. I mean, again, it gets down to personalities and roster issues, and like I guess what I will comment on is it's always easier for any sports fan on the outside looking in going, this team should pick up this footballer, should pick up this quarterback, they'll be so much better, and there's a lot that goes into it. Who do the players want to play with? Who do they get along with? What support do you need? What do you need in that game? And you know, it takes a while to find that perfect fit, and we just haven't found it yet.
But what do you think about the game, like the future of the game? I know that Valve has been supporting it a lot, and if you look at the numbers on Dota 2 on the Steam, they are growing so much. They have like one of the most played games, even though it's a closed beta still. But yeah, what do you think of the game?
I think it's fantastic, and again, it's not my genre of game. You know, I'm definitely an FPSer, but you know, we had a Dota team, EG did years ago. And again, I think that it's the game right now for us to support. It is the purest version of the genre, right? It is the most like Dota. Nothing to knock on or League of Legends that are variants. And yeah, we wanted to jump in early because again, I don't think that it's going to go anywhere but up. Like you said, the numbers, and it's a closed beta, are huge. And I think one of the biggest things it's got going for it, because you look at why is StarCraft 2 so popular, why are some of these games so popular, and a lot of it is the people that are helping tell the story, right? The casters, the journalists, who is talking about the game, and you got a guy in Toby who is that, like he is that focal point, right? And every game needs that. Riot's got their casters that are kind of endemic too, and so that you know, and he's cranking out great content. Join Dota, all that stuff, really good stuff, and that's what really helps, you know, build the storylines. And so while we're having our roster issues, I think everyone at EG couldn't be happier with where Dota 2 is going as a game.
Do you think that Dota 2 is gonna be the next huge game?
I think it already is huge, you know, based on the numbers, so I think it's only going to get bigger. You know, I certainly think League of Legends is going to go nowhere but up too. I mean, their numbers are huge. You know, in the back of my head, I'm a little nervous, a little curious as to what Blizzard Dota is going to be like. Is it going to be just a fun, casual game? Is it going to be another one we all have to go, shit, another one that you know is now? Do we have 5 now? We worry about 4. We worry about. So, I just hope that Valve keeps on the right track, right? You know, we don't need silly hats. We don't need, we don't want them to do we don't want them to do what they did to TF to any of these other games. So, but so far so good, right?
Talking about silly hats and of course free to play. Do you think that the game will be free to play?
I bet it will be. I bet it will be. Based on, again, they have had incredible success with Team Fortress, and I'm sure they've looked at the Riot model and now the Han model and went, we can't charge $60 for this. We can't charge $20 for this. We got to figure out a way to microtransaction it to make it free to play, so we can still make our money, but make it an easier way to get in. And that makes me wonder what they're going to do with CS:GO, right? Is it going to be free? Is it going to be $20? It's certainly not going to be a $60 game. But we'll see. Valve is one of those companies like Blizzard that when it's ready, it's ready. When we're going to do our thing. We all just hope that their thing is what we want, right?
If we go back to StarCraft 2 and MLG here in the States, you have been pretty vocal about their new how they're gonna do this season or the different seasons with the pay-per-view and so on. But if you could tell the Swedish fans, in short, what do you think about it?
Well, my biggest fear before the pay-per-view, because we had Sundance on the show, and I'm all for pay-per-view. If it works in certain sports, it works at certain events for certain sports, right? So I think there's a place for that. My fear before their pay-per-view was that they were preaching this doom and gloom that it was the only way to go. Like, if we don't do this, we go out of business, and therefore the whole thing collapses. MLG going out of business certainly would put a huge dent in a lot of things, but will it kill global esports? We've had other big companies come and go, right? And certainly I don't want them to go anywhere, and they're not going to go anywhere. So my fear was that everyone saw that and went, oh, well, we all got to go pay-per-view. And then that kills the fan base in a sense, because they have some money to spend, but they can't pay for every single stream, right? And I'm a big fan of charging for extra content. Don't charge for the entry, right? Because again, we're still growing this, so we need those eyeballs, and not everyone can afford to pay. Now afterwards, they've said it was highly successful. They hit their magic number and beyond, so that's great for MLG. And what they've then since said is, some things are going to be paid for you. The big open events will not be. We'll charge for HD. We'll charge for the extra streams, and I'm all for that. But let me, the kid who has no money, be able to at least tune in, and maybe the quality's not so good, but don't deny me the access to watch the sport. Because again, just like MLG, I need that kid to buy a t-shirt or buy a mouse pad, and SteelSeries wants them to buy a headset, right? So we're already all asking a lot of this fan base, right? So I think there's a place for it. And again, it was successful. So Sundance said he hit his numbers, and that's fantastic. That they've chosen that to be part of their business model, and obviously they have huge amount of investment. So a lot of people are looking at their business. So that's good. I'm just afraid of that barrier of entry. We can't have it yet.
What if you compare IPL and MLG? What are the positive sides of the both tournaments, and what are the negative sides compared?
They're both, at this point, really hard tournaments, right? They're both grinds. Like yesterday in the open bracket room was a really long day for everybody. And that's very similar to like the Saturday at an MLG. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast we're in. That's not a negative. It's just the way it is. The only way you could spread it out is if you had a week-long tournament, right? But that's not really cost-effective either. I think they kind of approach things a little differently in how they operate. And obviously, we've seen this shift that IPL now has a relationship with GOM and GSL that MLG used to have. I think I think they're far more similar than they probably both want to think. You know, their production values are both very, very good. Big ballrooms, big screens, big HD stuff, lots of gear. I would say that IPL is a little more player-centric right now. They seem to take a, I don't want to say better care, because that makes it sound like MLG doesn't take good care of the players, and they do. But I think IPL still has this, we got something to prove, we're going to go out of our way mentality, which doesn't mean they're always going to have that either. The things they did in Atlantic City for the players, they already reeled back a little bit for this event. We've all seen that, and that's fine. You know, you have to realize what your own expectations are for throwing tournaments. It's not a cheap thing to do. What I want them to do is continue to friendly compete with each other, because all that does is grow each product, right? Whether it's prize pools or production values, or how they take care of the players, I want them to fight. You know, competition is good, right? Monopolies are never good. What I'm afraid is going to happen is that they start actively fighting and sabotaging and literally making us choose where we have to send our players, because they pick the same dates for, like, they intentionally start going after each other, you know. And again, they both pick the same qualifier weekends or something, and then we have to choose, and the fans have to choose, and that's not where I want it to go. But I you know, when you start getting, you know, Coke and Pepsi fight, right, and they actively counter market against each other, and you know, and maybe that's where we get. They both want to be the league, right? And so I don't know. It's going to be a really interesting couple of years, you know, because I don't think IPL is going to go anywhere, and I certainly don't think MLG is going to go anywhere.
Talk about that there are a lot of tournaments now. Like, we see that this weekend we have Copenhagen Games, we have the Gathering and the IPL. In the future we have MLG and DreamHack Open is at the same time, and I know that you're going to send Hydra to DreamHack Open. Could you talk a little about what is the biggest problem? Like, why are they putting it in the same, around the same time, and how will this, when will the smaller leagues start to disappear?
Well, yeah, and that is the problem. Like, we're running out of weekends, right? And again, like, I'm sitting here talking about MLG and IPL, but you know, like, DreamHack is a huge beast now when it comes to esports. You know, while IEM is in their off season, they're a huge beast, right? And suffice to say, both those organizations are maybe more global than MLG and IPL right now. I mean, the problem, and we've had this for years, right? Like, how many people remember that CPL and Esports World Cup were on the same weekend, you know? And those weren't qualifiers; those were the big events. I mean, I guess I wish magically that there was some calendar that all the event organizers all were very honest about, and all put their dates in, and people literally tried not to pick overlapping dates. But you know, contract negotiations take a very long time to lock in hotel dates and convention center dates, you know. And I don't know. It's just going to get tougher and tougher, you know. Like, you've got Naniwa, who also has chosen to go to DreamHack for all sorts of reasons. The kind of cool thing about the MLG system is you can skip a couple of those arenas or go to one out of the two. Or you can still decide to roll right into the open tournament, right, and give it a shot. Obviously, you want to get to an arena to get some seeding, get some money, all that. But it doesn't kill your chances, you know. So Naniwa is going to go to the DreamHack one, and then he's probably going to go to the second arena and get his points and get his seeding for the spring event. There's no easy fix here. I mean, as we have more and more tournaments, it's like you said, the smaller guys are going to have a harder time eking out an existence, right? Because you already see it, you know, scheduling, you know, online stuff with offline stuff, and like you can't watch everything, and there's no easy fix, you know. And maybe somewhere along the way, they all divide the games. And maybe that's what fixes it, right? Maybe, but everyone wants some of these big games, right? Everyone wants to do League of Legends. Everyone wants to do StarCraft 2. But maybe somewhere along the way, MLG becomes the StarCraft, and IPL becomes League of Legends, and Extreme Masters becomes Counter-Strike. I don't know, but they all want to, you know, because the numbers are there, right? The audience is there. It's gonna get. I think it's gonna get uglier, unfortunately, before it gets better.
finishing the interview off, have you heard about Kespa and the involvement in? Yeah, what have you heard about it?
I mean, I've heard what everybody. I have no inside track on this. I've heard that that they're obviously all looking at StarCraft 2 now, which we knew was eventually going to happen, right? There was this other organization is forming, this federation, right, to make sure that they have a seat at the table against Kespa. And you hear these horror stories about Kespa, and I'm not a Brood War guy, so I can't speak to years ago. But if you ask any player, Kespa was not a player organization. It was to protect the league, protect the teams, and protect the sponsors, right? And manage and control the players, right? With the licenses, and a lot of that stuff is really good ideas. Right, but when you start impeding a player's ability to travel and compete, and you're not taking care of him instead, like if you're not going to let him travel somewhere else, you better make sure he makes so much money in your world that he doesn't have to, right? So I'm not as scared. I'm not scared that old Kespa's coming back, I guess. I don't think Blizzard would let it be the same way, for one, which, I mean, they will be the police, I mean, they didn't have much control back in the day. Now they do, right? I think like we've had some people like start this paranoia, right? And this federation is kind of started, and like everyone's kind of fear mongering that Kespa is going to come and like lock out all foreigners and like try to basically recreate the Brood War only Korean world with StarCraft 2, and it would be a terrible business decision to them because the sponsorship dollars, while there are still in Korea, are global now, right? Marketing budgets are global now. And the foreign fan base wants to see not every foreigner be able to compete in Korea, but some of them at least get a shot, right? If you don't qualify, you don't qualify. But if you lock it down and say that like the Hucks and the Naniwas and the Idris can't even try to qualify, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So I don't think they'll be the Kespa of old, and for a lot of reasons. But again, we're all very much in wait-and-see mode.
Do you think StarCraft 2 really ain't that big in Korea, but do you think that Kespa's involvement could make it boom, like become Brood War big or something like that?
I mean, I think that's them shifting is part of the old school shifting, right? And again, I don't know if Brood War ever goes away in Korea, but I think they are part of that old guard shifting to the new game, right? Which, again, like, it shouldn't be looked at as doom and gloom and fear-mongering. It should be looked at with maybe some cautious optimism. Let's see what they're going to do before we think they're going to, destroy everything and lock the doors again.
Thank you so very much for your time. Do you have any last shout-outs?
No, I mean, my shout-outs would be to, all the players of EG, all the fans of EG, all the staff of EG, I'm just one guy, that seems to get a lot of the camera time, but like I probably do the least amount of heavy lifting in the company, from our account execs to Alex, our CEO. And again, as I say at the end of every Live on 3, if you love EG and love what we do, or also One More Game, I do all the stuff over there, support us. But if you love Team Liquid, if you love Complexity, find their sponsors, tweet them, let them know, you guys, support Rakaka. Obviously, so whoever you do like, it does work. Support them, tweet their sponsors, go to their website, click on the ads, comment on the forums. Because we are definitely not to the point where we can, like real sports, just kind of, oh, the fans are here. We need that fan support. It is what grows this. So that's it,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.